The meeting between the Ukrainian and American delegations on the 20-point peace plan has concluded in Berlin. It lasted an hour and a half, and this was already the second round of negotiations with the Americans. Details will likely be revealed soon during the speeches by President Zelensky and Chancellor Merz at the Ukrainian-German Business Forum, which has just begun. Zelensky managed to hold a meeting with the President of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, and the head of the Bundestag, Julia Klöckner. It is also expected that later the President of Ukraine will hold negotiations with European leaders, representatives of the United Kingdom, and the leadership of the EU and NATO regarding a peaceful settlement. The day before, Ukraine discussed this topic with the American delegation for as long as 5 hours. Behind closed doors, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff described it as follows verbatim. Significant progress has been made. The negotiations have never been as serious as they are now. This was already characterized by the Ukrainian-American. The negotiations were described by German Foreign Minister Johann Wadefull. The German press writes that the main topic of the negotiations is security guarantees for Ukraine. It is reported that our country is ready to give up its aspiration to join NATO if in return it receives security guarantees, based on the model of Article 5 of the alliance. The third topic is the front line and the so-called buffer zone in Donbass. Zelensky calls it fair. The option of we stay where we are, meaning a ceasefire along the current line of contact. But Russia is essentially demanding that Ukraine surrender Donbass. And now we can see a direct signal from Berlin, where President Zelensky is expected at the German-Ukrainian Business Forum. Perhaps we will return to this later. If the head of state makes any statements there, we will be able to see them live. And today I believe Zelensky also has a meeting with Chancellor Merz. The advance of Ukrainian defense forces in Kupiansk continues. Our soldiers are clearing the city center of enemy troops. This is reported by analysts from the Institute for the Study of War, based on their analysis of maps. At the end of last week, the defense forces managed to encircle the enemy in Kupiansk, cutting off their supply routes for equipment and ammunition. The settlements of Radkivka, Mern, and Kindrashivka have also been liberated. Meanwhile, the situation on the Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad section remains extremely difficult. The Russians are trying to hold Pokrovsk and the villages around it. The 7th Rapid Response Corps of the Air Assault Forces published footage showing the Russian column Thick Fog attempting to enter the village of Hryshine, which is near Pokrovsk. Ukrainian paratroopers completely destroyed it. The ATZH partisan movement reports that the top brass of the enemy's general staff is in turmoil as Russian generals are under heavy pressure from the Kremlin because they still haven't successfully taken either the city of Kupiansk or Pokrovsk. And now more details about the situation in Kupiansk. The defense forces there are blocking all Russian attempts to infiltrate the city through the gas pipelines. Now the occupiers are forced to cross the Oskil River to get closer to the city, but even there our drone operators are destroying them. In the very center of Kupiansk, an enemy group remains trapped, about 200 occupiers, according to the command of the search and strike group, Kartia. According to them, the defense forces are detecting and eliminating the enemy. Andriy Tsaplienko, a correspondent for SN Tizhden, who has been filming this operation from the very beginning, learned from the group's command the non-public details of this brilliant tactical victory. And now he will tell you everything in detail.
A Kenyan citizen named Hope Impala went to Russia hoping to earn millions of rubles, but ended his life in Kupiansk, struck down by 2 Ukrainian bullets that pierced his passport.
It's a bullet hole, that's the proof.
I think there's a stamp, yes. If you look at the date, he entered Russia on September 6th of the year 25.
Well, maybe so.
So he wasn't even prepared, was he?
They're mercenaries, after all. Let me tell you this, the enemy doesn't prepare their personnel. They don't care about them at all, quite the opposite.
An exotic passport bearing the coat of arms of an African country has joined the collection of documents from eliminated occupiers gathered on the battlefield by the fighters of the Kartia group.
According to our current estimates, we've effectively destroyed at least 12 confirmed foreign mercenaries who were actively involved.
In 2.5 months of the Ukrainian counteroffensive operation, the Kremlin has lost more than 1,000 of its soldiers in the Kupiansk area.
The enemy is being annihilated at a significantly much higher rate, even dozens of times more.
Dozens of times more?
More in relation to our forces.
In September of this year, the enemy's intentions became clear: to bypass Kupiansk from the north.
At a minimum, from what we know, at least 2 regiments were involved.
The Russian tactics were absolutely inhumane. Every day, dozens of expendable occupiers like zombies would walk alone under fire toward Ukrainian positions. But some of them managed to slip through our defensive line and gain a foothold in the villages near the city.
By September, it was already clear that there were quite a lot of enemy forces in the city. They could seize the initiative there, and this posed a direct threat of the city being captured, Kupiansk. There was also another threat. The enemy captured settlements such as Kindrashivka, Tishenkivka, Radkivka, Moskovka in the old way, and he created a threat of encircling the city of Kupiansk.
Serhiy Sidorin led a search and strike group which included several units of the defense forces. The command of the Kartia Corps developed a very daring plan to stop the Russian advance with fewer forces and to unblock Kupiansk.
So the first task we had was to liberate the settlements, to reach the Oskil River, and to prevent further enemy reinforcements from entering the city itself. We worked immediately. It was planned so that we operated on one side and on the other, and this disoriented the enemy. They understood that we were there, but by then we were already somewhere else.
But the main factor in the operation's success, according to its participants, was the regime of silence.
First and foremost, it was information silence. During the operation, a major advantage was that the enemy didn't understand what was happening.
The Russians were outplayed. At the very moment when the head of the Russian General Staff, Gerasimov, was announcing the capture of Kupiansk, the logistics of the Russian group in the city had already been cut off. For now, the remnants of Russian troops remain in the center of Kupiansk. But everyone understands that a complete clearing of the city is only a matter of time, just as everyone understands about the Kremlin. With its statements about the complete capture of Kupiansk, it has now received a powerful slap in the face from the Ukrainian military.
Right now, their group is actually surrounded. Yes, they are occupying high-rise buildings in the central part of the city, which are being targeted daily by our adjacent units. The defense forces, they are being cleared out.
The key role in liberating two villages north of Kupiansk was played by the 475th Assault Regiment Code Devai II, supported by the 4th Battalion of the 92nd Brigade. We filmed these shots with the fighters. Code Devi II back in September, during the first stage of the operation. At that time, we didn't show them on air, but now we can.
The enemy was shaped like a crescent, so to speak. We tried to maintain a circular defense. Who knows where the enemy could have slipped through?
Despite the fact that the enemy was launching an incredible number of drones into the air every day, the regiment's fighters managed to break through with armored personnel carriers and cover their infantry with tanks.
I believe that without the cage, without the rubber, without these hedgehogs, with such a flood of drones, there's really nothing to do on the battlefield at all.
The crew of this tank showed true heroism, carrying out their mission under drone strikes.
The task was to move out to the area of the settlement of Ravkivka and carry out the mission. We set out together with an APC. We were supposed to work one side. The APC was supposed to cover the other side. But as we were approaching, both Monya and Lancet started coming in. They started working with regular FPV drones as well. There are FPVs with tandem-shaped charge warheads there. Anti-drone protection. Through the rubber, through the MTO roof. The wiring was burned and it reached all the way to the turbine. The turbine was burned through as well.
On that day, it was their comrades in the armored personnel carrier who helped the tank crew get out from under fire and save their vehicle.
They made a corridor out of cigarettes so that drones wouldn't reach the rear part of the vehicle. Drones explode after colliding with the chains and the rubber. They detonate right here. The blast wave reaches the armorless.
This is where I was sitting. A guy, my comrade, was closing the door, and when it hit, it burned through. There was a whole cloud here, and we were all burning, driving the whole way.
No matter how well the command plans the operation, only the heroism of ordinary Ukrainian soldiers like these can ensure its true success. Proven in Kupiansk. Andriy Tseplienko, Ilya Shinkarenko, TSN1+ Marathon. United News.
A cyclist was killed by the Russians in the Sumy region. They hit him with a drone. Another man was also wounded by an explosive dropped from a drone. 6 out of the 14 victims in Zaporizhzhia remain in the hospital. Among them is a 6-year-old boy. The victims have minor explosive injuries, fractures, bruises, and concussions. The day before, the Russians attacked the regional center with Molnya and Cab drones. One drone fell on a supermarket where there were many people. The explosion and fire also damaged many cars. In Donetsk region, a resident of Druskivka did not survive the attacks. Another person was wounded. There are also victims in Serhivka and Vodyansky. In Sinelnikivsky district, which is in Dnipropetrovsk region, infrastructure was damaged. While firefighters were extinguishing the blaze, the Russians struck again. A rescuer and an employee of the enterprise were injured. In Marhanets, 3 people were wounded as a result of a Grad rocket attack. And in Pyatikutki, drones attacked the railway station. Suburban trains departed with delays. In Kharkiv region, the occupiers killed a resident of the village of Mern. For the strikes on the region, they used aerial bombs and various types of drones, damaging homes and enterprise power grids and transport. Belozerka in the Kherson region also came under fire. In Lamkiv, a passerby was wounded. The invaders also struck the regional center, where a higher education institution and its dormitory were damaged. The private sector was also hit. Residential houses and cars, walls, roofs, and fences were damaged. It looks like a sieve, but miraculously there were no casualties. And now air raid alerts will sound by district. In all regions except Donetsk and Luhansk, the local authorities have already implemented this division. The State Emergency Service and the Air Force Command will be able to issue warnings about threats in places where they actually exist. According to Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko, this system has already been tested in 13 regions, and the effect, she says, is very noticeable. In certain communities in the Dnipropetrovsk region, they have gained over 100 additional days without air raid alerts during this time. In the Sumy region, 50 days and over a month in the Kharkiv region. So in these communities, critical infrastructure and businesses can operate more efficiently and stably. And another innovation is the speed of transmitting information about alerts. Previously, it took several minutes for information to go from the Air Force to the State Emergency Service, but now it takes only 8 to 15 seconds. This means a faster response to threats, especially from ballistic missiles. Odesa region is overcoming the consequences of the blackout. After the massive attack on the energy infrastructure, the region was left without electricity, without water, without heat, and in some places, even without communication. In just a day and a half, the enemy targeted more than 300 aerial weapons at the region's critical facilities. Strikes. Despite constant air raid alerts, energy workers have already managed to restore power to almost all critical infrastructure facilities. When will electricity return to every home, and how are Odesa residents surviving? Our correspondent Olena Chernyayeva will tell you more.
It's the 3rd day without electricity in Odesa. The city now hums with generators as usual and endures almost constant air raid alerts. Water has returned to residents' homes. Energy workers have managed to restore power to critical infrastructure. Today, students from most schools returned to their desks. Duty groups are operating in kindergartens. Trams and trolley buses remain in the depot. Only buses are running in the city. Carriers have promised to increase their number on the routes. There are no crowds at the stops.
People understand the situation. We hope that in a few days the situation will improve.
This is yours?
No, it's not mine. Oh, this one's mine. Sorry, but I have to run.
Electric cars have almost disappeared from the roads, but traffic is still just as heavy. However, not all traffic lights are working. Only those powered by batteries or generators are on. It's difficult without traffic lights, especially at night because there's no street lighting either. There are no lines at the water pumps or a rush for drinking water in stores. Huge queues form where people can charge their devices at resilience points. This is now the main gathering place for city residents. Schools, supermarkets, cafes, the police, and the State Emergency Service are also letting people in to warm up and charge their devices.
I was getting ready back in 2014. I'm from Donetsk. We lived without water, without electricity, without water for almost 3 years, and without electricity for more than half a year.
It's charging very slowly because there are so many people here. We don't know when we'll be able to leave. It's charging mostly power banks and phones. Like everyone else, we walk around in semi-darkness. Thank God, at least we have a roof over our heads. Now we have water and it's warm too.
We planned ahead so we have a way to boil some water and make formula for the baby. People come here like asthmatics who need it to provide assistance. At the medical station, we've also set up a place where people can simply receive all these procedures. In other words, we're trying to do everything we can to make people comfortable.
Not everywhere in the city has phone or internet connection. Air raid sirens don't sound everywhere either. City residents say this is because they had to empty the contents of their refrigerators. A lot of spoiled food. In group chats, people share recipes for what to cook in order to save the food. However, only residents of buildings with gas supply can afford to do this. It's hardest for residents of so-called electric buildings, meaning those equipped with electric stoves. It's difficult to prepare hot food and the elevators aren't working. To the question, when will the power be back, the answer remains unknown. Energy workers are doing their jobs, but the shelling doesn't stop. Olena Chernyayeva, Ivan Savchenko, Odeshchina, TSN1+, Marathon, United News.
For the occupiers, it's a human shield, but for Ukrainian soldiers, it's a responsibility. The soldiers of the 127th Separate Heavy Kharkiv Brigade liberated and evacuated people from Kupiansk. 14 local residents, 3 children and 11 more adults. The people were staying in the basement of an apartment building. When fighting was raging in the streets, the enemy knew about it. And when they retreated, they even called in artillery fire to destroy civilians, and this is not the first time they have used such methods. Ukrainian soldiers evacuate civilians from the city right during attacks or shootouts. They say the enemy understands that Ukrainians are fighting for the lives of their people and tries to exploit this situation. A war of drones and artillery, with constant attempts by sabotage groups to penetrate deeper into Ukrainian territory. This is about the north of the Kharkiv region, where the occupiers are doing everything possible to get closer to the regional center. To make sure the enemy fails, the crews of the Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 58th Motorized Infantry Brigade, named after Ivan Vyhovsky, are making every possible effort. The filming crew of TSN correspondent Alexander Motorny witnessed how the crew of a heavy bomber carried out a special night mission. During the report, by the way, there will be a QR code on the screen. This is for raising funds for a hexacopter Vampire, which our soldiers urgently need for defense. Kharkiv region.
You arrive, get some much-needed sleep, get ready once more, have a quick bite to eat, and then back to work. A strong gut feeling.
Right? A gut feeling. Yeah. Super. With
Breaks to prepare for work. Every evening, they load boxes of drones, ammunition, and tools into the pickup truck and head north in the Kharkiv region to get back to work. And you always carry a shotgun with you, right?
Yes. It's better to always have it with you.
Against FPV drones?
Yes, against FPV drones. They can fly very far on fiber optics. They reach really far.
The bomber crews of the 58th Motorized Infantry set out, regardless of the weather, right up to the northern border to protect the regional center.
Right now, there's really a lot of work.
In the north of Kharkiv region, the Vampires of the 58th, who are actually all along the front, are now spending a lot of time mining potential routes and paths the enemy might use to advance. In this direction,
It's become a bit tougher. The enemy is planning offensive actions. Right now, there's more mining going on.
that is, these are possible routes of enemy advancement.
For the enemy. Yes, sabotage and reconnaissance groups, infantry are moving toward the positions. We're mining the logistics routes.
Nord is handling a lot of launches. His crew is working to deliver supplies to their fellow infantrymen right on the front line. Ammunition and food with water. But most of all, admits the pilot of the heavy hexacopter from the Battalion of Unmanned Systems of the 58th Motorized Infantry. He likes bombing.
As for ammunition, if we're talking about strike sorties, it's 400 MOA when we drop them. They hit the target more accurately. And in general, strikes are more interesting than mining or sending out logistics.
somewhere out there in the field. That's great.
We'll have 3 loads of ammunition. 2 of them will be explosive. We'll open up the house, the roof, everything, and then we'll just toss in an incendiary and we'll burn them out.
Tonight, break them into pieces and burn them. The bomber crew of the 58th had orders to destroy the hideout of Russian specialists who constantly terrorize the northern border area in the Kharkiv region.
A very juicy target. Yes.
Understood, pilot position. Yes.
Pilot position. They spotted the antenna there. Now let's have a shot for courage. Big. Drinking, clean it up. At the moment, we don't observe anything at all. Copy, copy. Thank you. A battalion has arrived here, as I understand it, of unmanned forces with good equipment, good drones, fully prepared. Rupee Pawn.
The path to the target wasn't easy this time, but Nord, at the highest possible speed, guided his Vampire through the night sky toward the enemy.
Visibility is barely possible. Humidity has risen. What about the speed? More than yesterday, 22.5. That's fine. It's enough.
There's no time for hesitation or prolonged aiming. Usually, the navigator says, the crew simply doesn't have it.
There are risks getting shot down. Small arms fire is very intense. It's serious. Even if you're at 200 meters, they can get you. Small arms can easily shoot you down.
But this time, the mission was extremely important, so Nord took the risk to descend in order to better guide the bombs to the target.
Are you alive, right? Alive, yes. It caught fire. Yes, alive. It will be burning there now. That's it. Yes, it will burn. It's just about to catch fire now.
While the crew was returning the Vampire to base, headquarters confirmed that tonight, near the Ukrainian border in Muscovy, thanks to the collective efforts of the warriors of the 58th, there are definitely fewer launch pads for the rashist pilots. From the north of Kharkiv region, Alexander Motorny, Serhiy Shportilo, TSN 1+, United News Marathon.
The European Union has decided to hit Russia's shadow fleet with new sanctions amid fruitless negotiations, peace talks or rather negotiations. The EU Council, at the level of foreign ministers, has decided to add 5 more individuals to the sanctions list, businessmen who are directly or indirectly connected to major Russian state oil companies. Rosneft and Lukoil, and 4 organizations that help transport the energy resources of the aggressor country. These are companies from the United Arab Emirates, Vietnam and Russia. All of them will have their assets frozen, be prohibited from receiving funds, and will also face restrictions on entry or transit through the territory of the European Union. In addition, the EU Council has imposed sanctions on another 12 individuals and 2 organizations due to Russia's hybrid actions, manipulation of foreign information and cyber attacks against the EU, its member states and partners. The list includes foreign policy analysts, former military personnel and police officers from Western European countries. The scope of the sanctions regime has also been expanded against Belarus for its hybrid actions against its European neighbors, such as the launching of smuggled weather balloons. It is also reported that at today's EU Council meeting in Brussels, a video address is expected from Trump's special envoy, Witkoff, and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, regarding a peaceful settlement.